If you're hoping to be handed Excalibur, this is not that lady, but this is Lady in the Lake. Episodes 1 and 2. I'm John Stark from Mac the Movie Guy, and I'm a blind film critic. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the audio description here. And this is currently on Apple Plus. It's a limited series. Currently, I believe 7 episodes. So we've seen 2 of the 7, and it is a murder mystery of sorts. Stars Natalie Portman, Moses Ingram, and then sort of downstream from that, we've got Mikey Madison, which I want to give a shout out to because that's a name you're going to hear a lot of this year. She's in a movie called Anora, and currently is predicted by many to be a frontrunner for an Oscar nomination this year. So she plays a supporting role in this, but she's about to get much, much bigger. Brett Gilman is in this from Stranger Things. Noah Jupe is in this. He was just in Franklin for Apple Plus. I guess he lives at Apple now. He's just doing limited series for Apple Plus. That's his whole career. Wood Harris. I don't know. There's a pretty decent ensemble here. It goes for a little while. So, but the main 2 characters, at least for the first 2 episodes, are Natalie Portman and Moses Ingram. And it's an odd show in the beginning because we get narration from the Lady in the Lake, who is Cleo, played by Moses Ingram, about this story that's being told, and how it's being told through Natalie Portman's character, but it's not her story to tell, but yet she's telling it, and that it's all about how Cleo is the Lady in the Lake, and she's not dead for the first 2 episodes. I don't mean to have that as a spoiler, but she talks as if she will be or is, but is not. So obviously that's pending, but then we also have to have the whole part where Natalie Portman then turns her focus onto, in order for any of this narration to make sense. It's very confusing for the first 2 episodes thematically, because it seems like the show is aimed at something else and sort of in a different direction. And so I'm interested to see how they pull it back and twist it and turn it back around and turn it into this thing that Cleo is suggesting that the show is about, because she's definitely not the little girl. The show opens up with largely you have a Jewish community, which Natalie Portman, Brett Gilman, Noah Jupe are all sort of a part of. Their one family in this Jewish community, mother, father, and son. And then there's also a Black community, which has its own sort of story going on too. So in one story on the Jewish side of things, also Mikey Madison's character is on the Jewish side of things, you have a family, and there's a little girl who we see at the beginning with her parents, and she really wants a seahorse. And there's this talk about Santa Claus and everything, but you find it obviously Jewish because that no, Santa's not real. You could just ask your dad for whatever you want for your birthday or whatever. And she really wants a seahorse. So I guess she wanders away from her family and she goes into this aquarium, and never to be heard or seen from again. And we don't see what happens to her, but she goes missing. And Natalie Portman hears about this. There's a little bit of a thing about Natalie Portman's character where she's got a little bit of blood on her coat or something like that, suggesting maybe she, I don't know, might be more involved than she says she is or whatever. So this may be an unreliable narrator show, but she also did just go into a butcher shop, and she's coming out of a butcher shop and has a little bit of blood in her coat. So it's possible that's what that is. But That's the first time Cleo clocks her and sees her in the show, is when she's coming out of the shop. She has a little bit of blood, and it's pointed out. It must be pointed out for a reason. I don't know the reason because I haven't seen the other set of episodes. But she's clearly distraught by this missing child, and she's got the brisket, and it's Thanksgiving, and they're supposed to be having this brisket, and her husband, Brett Gilman, is just insufferable, like at the wrong time, and it sets her off, and she just kind of leaves on Thanksgiving. She just kind of moves out. She grabs her shit and she goes, and it shows how really hard it was back in those days for women to do that. Like, everybody's just like, well, your husband needs to sign, well, your husband needs to do this, well, your husband needs to do this, well, you can't because your husband needs to be you. Well, women just aren't allowed out by themselves, and women can't just do this, and it's very restrictive in terms of that. Like, when they talk about joining the search party, Natalie Portman wants to join the search party for the girl. She's having this conversation with Mikey Madison, who is the daughter of the man who's letting her rent this spare apartment. Things move really fast in this show. She gets a spare apartment like in the same day, and Thanksgiving. And anyway, so she wants to join the search party to look for this little girl, and Mikey mentions to her, they don't let girls out there on that, and they don't let women do a lot of things. Natalie Portman tries to buy a car here, and they're like, well, you need your husband's signature, and she's like, well, can I just pay? What if I just pay cash? Can I just? Nope. Okay. So like, they will not, even if you have the money. No, where's your man? Like, why isn't there a man with you? So she does have some rings, some jewelry and stuff that's worth something, and so she's trying to figure out a way how to pawn it and get the money, full money that's worth. The ring is insured, so she kind of figures out a way to stage a break-in to make it look like there's somebody stole her ring. I'm only mentioning this. This is a little bit spoilery, but it brings in a cop character that is going to, I'm assuming, will be integral to this plot, who investigates the fake break-in on her place, and so we get introduced to a cop who knows a little bit about this missing girl thing, and so he's added. That's how we get him into the thing. I had to get somewhere how to get the cop into this so that that there's a cop, because before that they don't really play with the cops. Like, the cops aren't really here, and he lets her know, he's like, well, I mean, we all the different suspects and little things about the crime, so she has some like ideas of like what's happening. Like, I would say they form a bond, and that's as far as I'm going to go with that. Interestingly enough, the other thing is Mikey Madison loves to smoke pot, and that happens a lot with her character. And I will say, they do find out in the first episode what happens with the little girl, but again, we're gonna sidestep the spoiler. So I'm gonna hop over now to Cleo's side. So Cleo she works like multiple jobs. She has a kid she's trying to keep out of the life of crime. Her husband is a stand-up comic who doesn't get a lot of work, and Cleo's supportive of him, believing that he's very good, and he just, but he needs to really just focus on his thing and get out there and earn money for the family, because she's running all over the place trying to do everything on God's green earth to earn a living, and also to get her boy into the best education. But he keeps trying to run numbers on the street, and through this, I definitely really had a better understanding of when people say what the numbers game is. I actually kind of understand what that is now, because this show actually does a really good job of explaining the numbers game, because there's sort of like a crime boss type of person who's running the numbers game for the black folk of this area. And she kind of works for him, and doesn't really want to be working for him, would rather be working somewhere else. She tries to stand up for herself when there's a woman that's running for um, some position. She's in an election cycle of some kind, and she stands up and says some stuff about, supportive of her, and uh, tries to work on her campaign. That doesn't work out. So she's basically stuck doing crappy jobs slash semi illegal jobs with this guy, um, and trying to keep her kid from from getting pulled into that life. When he seems to he keeps drifting that way. And every time she spots him, she gets really pissed off and like kicks him away. It's just, gets mad at whoever pulled him in. So she's asked to do something that sort of leaves her character in a little bit of a cliffhanger at the end of the second episode. But I don't know, we'll find out. So it's interesting because this is like one of those things where it's like, I almost feel like I would have wanted a third episode, but I don't know. Without a third episode, it was a 2 episode drop. The first episode, fine, I can review that. The second episode, okay, you expand upon it a little bit more and give me a little bit more story, but there are a lot of unanswered questions, and I'm also trying not to give too many spoilers. So, like, I still don't understand where the show's going and how we get there, and how Natalie Portman starts telling Cleo's story when they haven't even met. So, and Cleo's still alive. So, um, that's the thing about a limited series. Like, this would work at this format if this was like a series that was going to run a long time, and like at some point we would find out. I'd be like, oh well, okay, maybe in season 3 we'll get to that. But we have 5 episodes left before the series is over for this whole thing to make sense and then wrap. So Cleo's got to die fast. I hate to say that. I love Moses Ingram. She's number 2 billing though, which is weird because that would mean that she has to have a lot of screen time. So she's either gonna have a lot of screen time through flashbacks, or she won't die until the end. One of 2 things will happen, because it's weird that she's got number 2 billing. I like Moses. I'm glad that she's been moving up in the world. I actually thought she was one of the brighter spots in Obi-Wan. I know the internet like went after her because they were like, Black Jedi, or Black Sith, or whatever she was. And it's just like, I thought she was great. She was also in a movie called All Dirt Road's Taste of Salt, where she was fantastic. And she has a movie this year called The End, directed by Joshua Oppenheimer, which is an apocalyptic musical. Could go somewhere, could not. Maybe. People don't know what to do with it. But it certainly sounds intriguing. So I'm excited for the possibilities. It's a good cast. It's an ensemble. It's very much an ensemble. It bounces around between a bunch of different characters. Natalie Portman is technically the lead, but only by like a fraction, by like a hair of a margin, because they do invest a lot of time on the characters. They invest time in her. They invest almost exact same amount of time on Cleo, just like maybe like a half step back. Enough for you to be able to go number 1 Natalie, number 2 Cleo on a call sheet. You know what I'm saying? Like number 2 Moses. So, but not, I wouldn't say like noticeably, because Cleo is definitely on the black storyline side of things, the lead of that storyline, which is like half the cast. It's like half the cast black, half the cast Jewish, and that's it. I don't know how the stories are going to converge and come together. There's a suggestion of course, because we tie things back to this aquarium that she went into, this pet shop aquarium thing that she went into, about what that could look like and maybe who was responsible there. But because we didn't see anything, I think there's a reason why we didn't see anything. It's ambiguous. So yeah, we don't know. There's still a lot of unknown after the first 2 episodes. So if you want to be pulled into a mystery and be guessing and left guessing, this might be the show for you. I think it's pretty successful in what it does. Is it interesting that this was Natalie Portman's journey on television? She doesn't really, it's not really her uh, venue. I mean, I guess at some point, because of peak television and the way that TV shows have changed, it's going to end up becoming everybody's at some point until like the last holdout would probably be Tom Cruise, who eventually might even find his way onto something. But yeah, it seems like everybody's just going to eventually end up doing some sort of a limited series or something. I don't know. So I'm interested to know where this character goes with Natalie, because right now I like the story and I like the representation of this is what a woman would be going through during this time period, but also a Jewish woman would be going through during this time period, and sort of the the backstory of like honor and commitment and duty and stuff like that to your family and serving your husband and stuff. And she's just like, I'm not doing that anymore. The thing that he blows up about is really ridiculous. And yeah, I don't know. Noah Jupe seems like a weird casting for a really small role. So I don't know if we're going to see more of his character, because he really doesn't do anything in the first two episodes. When I found out he was playing Seth, I was like, what? I was like, that character has like 2 lines of dialogue in 2 episodes. I mean, he's like barely in the show. So, meanwhile, he was like, I don't know, second billing on Franklin. So, I don't know. It's just, it's like, is he going to be a part of something here? Is he what are we what do we got going here? Um, so yeah, I'm open to the possibilities of the show. The audio description is cool. Apple's been using a lot of the same narrators for a lot of their projects. This is a different narrator, and I like that. It's very deep and mysterious and dark, and it's very just like, ugh. And then they move down the hallway, and I'm like, I don't. I was like, is this John Bradley? But it feels like even deeper than that. It feels like James Earl Jones. Like, this is one of the deepest voices I think I've ever heard narrating a show before. And it's very intriguing, and I like it. It's like, this is definitely somebody who's a bass inquirer. So yeah, Lady in the Lake is promising. It didn't like, it doesn't blow me away. And I have no idea where it's going, because like Cleo makes a lot of promises like right up front. As soon as you start the very first episode, she's all about, this is my story and you're telling it. But it doesn't even feel like Natalie Portman's telling a story right now. Like, it hints at the fact that she was a journalist at one point, but it doesn't even feel like that's what she's trying to do with anything. Like, it just feels like she just wants to get away from her husband at this point. So I'm intrigued to see how they tie everything together so that it all makes sense. Right now, it's a big question mark. Um, so I'm not going to go like the full A on this one, but I think it's well acted. It has a nice ensemble, but there is a giant question mark sort of looming over this series, and that's intentional, and it could finish well. But for right now, based on 2 episodes, I think there's just almost too much of an unknown. Like I don't see the path. I can't. I'm a blind film critic, so no, I can't find the path forward for the show. I don't know where it's going. So um it's gonna have a ride to get us to where it says it wants to go or it needs to go. So we'll see. At the end of the thing, this could be the best limited series of the year. This was around the same time Blackbird dropped for Apple, and that ended up being a crazy, fantastic series for Blackbird, for Apple. Paul Walter Hauser and everybody giving fantastic performances. So who knows? But I'm going to start off and give Lady of the Lake episodes 1 and 2 an A minus. So anyway, that's it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And if you like this, please click like and subscribe. Those like buttons help send it out more to other people, so that like other people, more well-liked videos get wider reaches to new people. So make sure to click that like button too, not just subscribe. Both of them. I love you. Anyway, I'll see you guys on the other side.